this video, we will be replacing the starter in this 2008 Hyundai Elantra. To prep this vehicle, I have set the parking brake, I have installed wheel chocks on the rear tires, and I have raised the front of the vehicle and supported it with a variety of safety stands. Taking a look inside the engine bay, we cannot see or access the starter from the top. However, it is located below the intake manifold, which is located towards the back of the engine. And taking a look underneath the vehicle, we can also not see or access the starter very easily. However, it is located above the drive shaft and above the transaxle. So to orient ourselves, we have our flex pipe for the exhaust system. Located near that, we have our transaxle with our transmission fluid pan. We want to look behind the transaxle up inside the engine. And taking a look at another view, we have our transmission pan. We have our transaxle. And we are looking straight up above that for the starter. And looking directly up at it, I can see that starter hidden up in there above the transaxle. And because we are working on the electrical system, we do want to disconnect the negative battery cable and cover that so it doesn't accidentally hit anything. Now that we have a general idea of where this is located at, we want to shift our focus back to the top of the engine. We will be removing a couple components to help us gain access to our mounting bolts. And we will start with two 10mm bolts for our air intake. And we can lift that component out. Next, we have our air filter housing assembly. Now on this assembly, there are two bolts that we need to loosen and remove. And then we want to loosen up our clamp located by our mass airflow sensor. And then we want to pivot that out of the way. And if we take a look down inside here, we still can't see very much, but if you look just right, we are able to see our two mounting bolts for the starter. And we can get on both of those bolts with a 14mm socket and ratchet. Now we still have our electrical connections, but I really can't see what those connections look like. So I'm going to loosen my mounting bolts and see if I can reorient this to where I can see those electrical connections a little better. If we take a look at our electrical connections, we have a wiring harness that needs to be removed, as well as one nut, which is connected to a cable running to our battery. The one nut is a 12mm nut, and our wiring harness has a small tab that needs to be depressed and then wiggled free. And if we take a look at our new part, we can see that there is a new nut and washer. So we do not need to save the old one. And before installing the bolts, I am going to put just a little bit of anti-seize on the threads. And we can then reinstall the air filter housing assembly. This has two 10mm bolts and one 10mm screw on the clamp. And then our air intake with another two 10mm bolts. And lastly, we can reconnect our battery cable. And this repair is complete.